The P515 by Yamaha. It's probably one of the most versatile digital pianos you can get. It's very nice. It has wood core keys, a lot of features, built-in speakers, and it has a built-in recording function. Now, this is all well and nice, but what really makes this special, and what you can't usually find in digital pianos, is that it has a digital audio interface. That means that aside from the usual analog connections, you could just connect it through a USB cable to something, a laptop, here I'm using an iPad, to actually play virtual instruments and play those instruments back through the speakers. Now, the way you do that is kind of unintuitive. It's not exactly fully documented in the manual, but it is an option here on the piano. So as it is now, as I just started it and connected it without anything, it acts as a standard digital piano. That's it. What you can do though is, for an example on this iPad, just start Garageband, select some sort of instrument here. For example, I can select a synth. I want to play a key, and now you see, aside from the piano sound, I have the synth sound too. But that's not exactly what we desire. So how do you remove the piano sound from this? You can actually go into the menu settings of the Yamaha. You press function, and then when it says song here, you can go to volumes. And in volumes, you have some volume balances. Because the Yamaha considers everything coming from the audio interface through USB or through any other kind of speaker to be song or a backing track, while it sends back MIDI information to the iPad, you can actually manipulate the sound of the virtual instruments through this menu. Now they're both at equal balance. You can go down all the way here to the volume. You can open this balance here, and if you push it all the way to the left, now you can no longer hear the piano or the virtual instrument. But here in the iPad, the track volume actually went down, and it follows me manipulating the volume here in the piano menu. But if we ignore this and I just increase the sound back, now I have zero sound from the internal keyboards, from the internal sounds of the Yamaha, but from the iPad and from the virtual instrument, I have full sound. And I can play with this volume as much as I want. And the master volume will affect it too. And it can actually be recorded. Full MIDI is still being sent back into Garageband for you to use. And how far you can take this is actually funny, because you can, for example, load up an arpeggiated synth, like a 70s arpeggiated synth. You can actually load any kind of instrument here. For example, let's take another lead synth, the air horn synth, and you have this kind of annoying sound, but then you can use features inside the iPad's virtual instrument. And build your own sound and control it fully from the keyboard. Now, you can have a lot of fun with this. And do a lot of things with the synths, but you can also load up a standard instrument, classical piano. You can use effects. You can use blowing instruments. And it's actually a lot of fun. Please note that the volume of the iPad will influence actual volume of the virtual instrument too. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind, for example, I disconnect now this iPad. As you can notice, immediately it lost connection, the volume dropped to 0 for that on its own. If you can hear this from the iPad, the virtual instrument only works on the iPad now. It has no connection. Now here's the problem. I go back to piano, I have no sound. And what did I do now? I turn off the piano, I turn it back on, I have nothing. I plug this back into the iPad, it connected now, and now I have the Wurlitzer again. See? Quite easy. So if I want to go back to my classical usage of piano and I want to have my default Yamaha piano sounds in here, I have to go to function, again to song edit. At the volume, the song keyboard volume, you basically just have to restore this back to 0. And now you have your full sound back to use. This Yamaha, with some computing power, you can actually turn it almost into a full studio setup. You have internal speakers, MIDI keyboard, very high quality MIDI keyboard, internal sounds from it, virtual instruments in here, more inputs and outputs in the back, digital recorder built in. You can do all sorts of things with this and just start creating your own music in a setup that is pretty compact. No needs for extra wiring. In my opinion, this is the ultimate small space, computer-based music production system. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please put them into the comment section. I will try my best to reply to them.